When it comes to recruiting in the transfer portal for Indiana basketball, could NIL be the problem?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into this, the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at NissanUSA.com. I got to start this episode off by saying thank you. Thank you to you, the watcher, the listener. Yesterday's episode about the transfer portal updates it's pushing, and it's almost, I think it's going to be the best episode I've ever published on this show, on this channel on YouTube. So thank you so much for that. You guys blew it up. You guys loved it, and I'm glad you did. So thank you so much for watching that. We jumped way over 1,900 subscribers. We're now pushing for 2,000 subscribers. Yes, 2,000 subscribers is what we're pushing for. So thank you so much. If you're on YouTube, like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel. It's free, it's easy, and it lets you know every time that we post a new episode. So thank you so much for yesterday on YouTube and on the audio version as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. Lots of big questions here on the show today. Is NIL a problem here in Indiana? Could that be the reason we're struggling to get the big-time players, or, hey, struggling to get players at all? What else can help this team and this program with Indiana basketball in recruiting? How can we sell Indiana? And then this new era of college basketball, college sports that we're seeing, with all of those things combined, how can Mike Woodson and this staff adjust to that? Lots of big hypothetical questions on the show today. Appreciate you being here. We know that it's been a struggle for Indiana to get talent in here as of late, right? No high school recruits coming in. You just lost 3 guys to the transfer portal. There's a good chance you're going to lose a guy to the NBA in Kel'el Ware, rightfully so. And now you're going to have up to 6, maybe more roster spots that you have to fill on next year's team. That's a lot. That is a lot. Now, yesterday we talked on the show about all the guys that Indiana has reached out to, and there's some serious talent in there, right? There's some serious talent that they've reached out to, but it just seems like it's really hard to get people on campus, and it's hard to get people to commit and sign and stay signed to the Indiana Hoosiers. Now, I think some of that is with the coaching question marks with this program that was leading up and kind of building through this past season. And then that was put to bed when Indiana brought Mike Woodson back. But lots of you bring up the question, is NIL a problem here? Is NIL one of the major reasons that we can't get guys here? I'll say this. I think we were behind in that category for a while. And I say a while. I know NIL hasn't been around all that long, but man, this was something that you had to jump on immediately and get the support of your fans and your boosters and everybody that's involved here. You had to jump on this and jump on it early, because it shows if you didn't. And I think Indiana did not. Now, from what I'm being told and from what I read, it sounds like Indiana's got the money, and it sounds like we have the money to compete on the recruiting trail and in the transfer portal when it comes to NIL. I hope that's the case, because if it's not, we're in trouble. We're in big time trouble, because as we're going to get to later on in the show, this is a new era of college basketball, college sports, because this kind of goes into football as well. This isn't just a basketball-centered question on NIL, because, look, Kurt Cignetti in football is going to need it too. They're going to need NIL money. You have to have it to get the best players. It's just where we are in today's game. Whether you like it or not, they want to get paid. They want to make a little cash. And I understand it. But people are questioning if that's an issue here at Indiana. And from the outside looking in, it appears that way, right? It appears that way because we can't get anybody to commit here and stay signed here. And we've got some serious gaps on the basketball roster. But I don't think so. I think we have caught up enough for now to at least compete and go get some guys. But here's what I'm going to say. For all of the fans and the donors and the boosters and everybody that's involved when it comes to NIL, name, image, and likeness, if you want Indiana basketball to be great again, because it hasn't been for a long time, if you want it to get back there, if you want it to even have a chance to get back there, NIL has to be your number one priority. And I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds weird, and it almost doesn't sound right, but that's where we are. You have to prioritize having a big old bank of cash and being able to shell it out to whoever wants it. And Indiana has to be prepared to do that. And again, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm being told, I think Indiana's prepared to do that. I think we have the money to do that. Now it's time to prove it. Now it's time to go out and find those guys. Find the biggest guys in the portal. Find the biggest guys in high school recruiting and lock them down. Whether they even want to be at Indiana, I don't know. That's a whole nother problem and question. But money talks. Money talks. And I know it's a crazy conversation to be having. And again, we're going to talk about what else we can do as a program to get guys here in recruiting in the portal. But step one, prioritize the thing they want the most. NIL. They want money to come play here. Look, NIL was created for these guys to go to school and then make money based off their popularity, make money based off their performance on and off the field, on and off the court, wherever. That's not how it's used, though. What is NIL used for? You answer that question. It's used for recruiting. That's what it's used for. It's abused for recruiting. And it's a broken system. I hate it. I think it's insane. But you got to play the game. Whether you like the rules or not, it's time to play the game. That's what has made the best coaches in college athletics the best coaches of all time. I look at Nick Saban, the football coach that was at Alabama, right? He didn't like some of the rules in the sport, but what did he do? He said, okay, that's fine. I'll be better at it than you. And he did, and he became the greatest coach of all time. Same thing with Coach K at Duke or Roy Williams at North Carolina. Like, those guys mastered the rules of the game and could recruit better than anybody. That's why they got the best players. That's why they win the most games, and that's why they're competing for the most national championships. Indiana has to buy into that in every sport across the board. I think we're doing that, but if you don't, if Indiana cannot get up and get caught up and stay up in NIL, it's going to be a long, long time before we're relevant again in college football, college basketball, and really any other sport on campus, because NIL is what is driving the success of college sports right now, whether we like it or not. Coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, outside of NIL, I know that was a big conversation right there, but what else can we do as an Indiana basketball program? What can Mike Woodson and this staff do to get guys here, get them to commit, get them to want to be here? How can we recruit and sell Indiana? We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushing further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. The Oregon Ducks are obviously this week's Nissan Rogue. The team absolutely surprised us all with a powerful performance in the final Pac-12 tournament, punching their ticket to the big dance, one of the 5 bid-stealing teams in the NCAA tournament. They say win life, go Rogue, and that's exactly what the Ducks have done here. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Look, the tournament starts today, but if your bracket's busted on day one, which there's probably a good chance it will be, Go to FanDuel, and they let you bet on every game of the tourney. Who cares about that bracket if it's not going to pan out, if it's going to be busted? Enjoy the tournament with FanDuel on your phone. That's what I'll be doing. Whether you're getting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Look, who's your lock of the century upset pick? I've got mine. I've got some big ones. I think more 12 seeds win than last year because none of them won last year. I think all 4 12 seeds win this year. Put $5 on one of those 12 seeds. If they win, FanDuel is going to give you $200 in bonus bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Welcome back to Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here. Make sure you like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube. We are now pushing towards 2,000 subscribers. Yes, we just crushed our 1,900 goal. It is crazy what you guys were able to do yesterday. So thank you so much. Help us get to 2,000 here at Locked On Hoosiers. We were talking about NIL, and I believe that is the go-to spot. That's the one topic that you have to, or area, I should say, that you have to master if you want to be good in high school recruiting and the transfer portal. But what else can we do? What else can Indiana do to sell this basketball program, to sell this university, to sell this wonderful town that we live in? What can they do to sell Indiana? Well, I saw an interesting comment on yesterday's YouTube video, and I want to read it for you because that's what sparked this segment, and it was kind of interesting. And let's see, and it said this from Jeffrey. He says, if I were a really good Indiana high school basketball player and I wanted to stay pretty close to home and I wanted to maximize my NBA chances, I would sign with Kentucky. It's interesting. It's an interesting comment because, look, you can't argue that Coach Calipari at Kentucky has put more guys in the league than anybody. I mean, it's true. Just look around. There's Kentucky players every single night in the NBA. Not that Kentucky's winning national championships. They've only won one in his time, and it was 12 years ago. But they're putting guys in the league. And when these high school players are coming out, man, they want to go play at a college that's going to be competitive, that's going to compete for championships, but it's also going to put them in the league. And sure, we've put guys in the league here recently. I mean, we've had some really good guys from here go into the league, but not at that highest clip like Kentucky, but they've been doing it at an insane level. But they also don't win because they're more focused on putting them in the NBA. But we have to become one of those programs that when people say, man, look at all those Indiana guys playing in the league. That used to be a thing. And you see them here and there throughout the nights now. I mean, our boys, our young guys right now are playing really well in the NBA. But we need to get back to being one of those programs where people say, man, that Indiana program is just chugging out and pumping out NBA guys, man. That's a cool thing to see. We haven't been that in a while. And sure, we put 2 guys in last year. Gonna put another one in this year. But if you're a high school player in Indiana or any of the surrounding states and you're thinking about the NBA, I don't know if we're one of your first options. I really don't. So that's something we have to become. That's something we have to say, look, whether you're a 7-foot center or you're a 6'4" point guard or you're a shooting guard, you can shoot the 3, you're a good power forward that can handle the basketball, you're a great defender, whatever the case may be, whatever the type of player you are, we have to be able to, Mike Woodson has to be able to walk into the living room, sit down on the couch and say, we can put you in the NBA. We can make you better than what you are now, and we're going to put you in the league. And that's a big development thing. And there were some people, from something I said yesterday, some people disagreed with the fact that not many players have developed here recently in Indiana. Look, guys have gotten better, but how much better are they because they played at Indiana? And it's a tough question to ask, and it's a tough question to hear as fans, but how much better are guys getting because they're here or compared to if they would have gone somewhere else? I ask you that question, and I leave it open-ended because it's up for interpretation. It's up for discussion. But I want to get to the point where that's not a discussion. I want to get to the point where it's, you go to Indiana, you're going to be a damn good player. You're going to get to the league. You're going to compete for championships. We used to be there, but we have not been there in a long time. That thing I talked about before, NIL will help that. Sure. NIL is going to help you get them in the door. But if you don't develop them and you don't give them a good product, a good service, A, they're going to leave, and B, your reputation is going to crash. I look at it as sales, right? I look at it as advertising sales. Look, if I run you a television ad or a radio ad or a YouTube ad, that's going to get them in the door. But if you don't give them a good product, they're going to leave and never come back. It's the same thing in high school recruiting and transfer portal. If you go get that big-time 5-star, which Indiana has, you've got McKenzie and Baco, you've brought in nice players through the portal like Kel'el Ware, but you don't do something with them, they're going to leave, and they're going to tarnish your reputation and drag you all through the mud all over town. Luckily, we're putting Kel'el Ware in the league. That's a check. That's a good sign. That's a great sign. And I think McKenzie and Baco did get better over this season. But you see what I'm saying here? You have to be able to do this to sell to recruits. Hey, this is a place that will benefit you long term. Don't go to those other programs. They got enough. They don't really want you. They don't need you. We want you. We need you. We're going to make you better, and you're going to play right now. Playing time is something that, we can absolutely sell right now because we've got half the freaking roster to fill. You're a good player. Come on in. All these guys, I got the list pulled up right here. Amari Williams and Dakota LaFew and Frankie Fiddler, all these guys that Indiana has reached out to in the portal. Come on in. You can play right now. And most of those guys only have a year left of eligibility, which I know we don't love, but look, you just got to get some dudes on the floor, man. Got to get some dudes in the locker room, on the team, and on the floor for next year. But you also have to prove you can win. Because at the end of the day, these guys are basketball players. And what do players want to do? Players want to win. And Indiana's got to prove that they can win on a high level. I know you have to get the best players to do that. And you've got to get the best players in the door and develop them into making them a good team to beat the best teams. But you got to figure it out. And you got to figure it out right now. This is year 4 for Mike Woodson. Nobody feels bad for him now. Nobody feels bad for him. This year for Mike Woodson in year 4, it's make or break. Make or break. And the fact that this is how the offseason's already started, not great. Not great. And the fact that you lost your one high school recruit, you got 3 guys in the portal, possibly more, losing a guy to the NBA, and have nothing coming in, not great. No postseason, no NCAA tournament, decline the NIT, which I agree with. Not a great start, Woody. And nobody feels bad for you anymore. It's now or never. Make or break time. And Indiana's got to find a way to tarnish our reputation, fix it, and convince players this is where you want to be. Because I still believe this can be one of the best programs in college basketball. Historically, it is. But we're down right now. We're down. And we got to find a way to fix that and get guys in the door and tell them and convince them and show them why Indiana basketball is the place that you want to be. Coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, how can we adjust to this new era of college basketball? All these things I've been talking about, NIL and trying to fix our reputation, all of that has to change, true, but this is not the college basketball of old. Not in recruiting, not in play, not in postseason. None of that is none of that is the same. How can we adjust to that? And how can the game adjust to all these changes? We'll talk about that coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Look, Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. I've told you this. I had a 55-inch Fire TV, and after, I think, 6 years, it finally went out, which, okay, I got my money's worth out of that. Then I turned around and bought a 65-inch Fire TV, and I absolutely love it, man. I'm going to be watching all the tournament games on that big boy over there. I'm looking at it. There it is right now, right? Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as Fire TV Stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes us here at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. You can dive into analysis, highlights, March Madness, NBA, so much more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot, being it every day, or those of you that are here every single day. Thank you so much, whether you're on YouTube or on the audio platform. I really appreciate you being here on Locked On Hoosiers. A lot of hypothetical questions today. A lot of how do we fix this? What happens if this doesn't happen? What can we do here? And to kind of put a bow on all of this, I'm asking the question, how can Indiana adjust to the new era of college basketball? All of those things that I just talked about, NIL, getting in the home, convincing people that Indiana's a place you want to be, declining NIT bids, right? All of those things that have come to the game that have become more popular. How can we adjust to that? And I've seen a lot of people on the NIT thing. I want to get that here for a second. Look, I get it. I absolutely get it. I saw Tom Crean. We know him very well. He went off on a whole NIT tangent about how teams should always accept their bid and you should want to play, get you more games, get you on the floor, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I get it. I get it. And maybe for a young team that's developing and look, had a okay season, they weren't expected to do a whole lot, and they're trying to build for the next season. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe the NIT is for you. But for a team like us, for a team like Indiana, we don't need the NIT. We're worried about recruiting. Who cares about a worthless postseason tournament when we don't even have enough guys to fill a roster next year, right? Kel'el Ware, not going to play. He's going to go to the NBA. You've got seniors on that team that may just be done with the game of basketball and at least in college, right? And I understand. Plus, it's more games that don't mean anything and all the possibility of getting hurt, which you could say that about any game at any time or even practice, whatever, walking around on the sidewalk. I get it. But why put your guys in that situation if you don't have to? It doesn't make sense for Indiana. The NIT is dumb anyway, I think. I think it's worthless. You see all the biggest, look at all the big name teams that decline their NIT invitation. It's because they don't want to be there. And you have to be recruiting. Recruiting is a 365 thing now, right? You have to recruit every single day. And that's what Indiana's trying to do right now. So that's a new era, right? That's a new adjustment that you have to make. All this NIL stuff and the transfer portal, which is totally broken right now. The fact that the transfer portal is open right now, the first day of the NCAA tournament, and the transfer portal is wide open, that sucks. That's not fair. That's wrong. And we blame the NCAA for that because they're a worthless organization. But how do you adjust for that? I don't know. I don't know how you do that. What are you supposed to do? Right? We'll take a Big Ten team. Let's take Wisconsin, for example. Wisconsin's a 5 seed, had a pretty good year. Could have been better, could have been worse. But look, that's a team that's got to go get some dudes in the transfer portal this offseason, right? They want to boost their roster. They've got a couple of guys dipping out. They want to go and get some more guys. But they can't look in the transfer portal right now because they're focused on James Madison in the NCAA tournament, who I think the Dukes are going to beat the Badgers, just FYI. So what is Wisconsin supposed to do? How are you supposed to be looking at the portal but also preparing for an NCAA tournament game? Now, you may be having an assistant coach do it, but your head coach isn't looking. And if your big-time assistant coaches can't do it, that's so dumb to me. And I don't know how you adjust to that. I really don't. because that's something that the NCAA needs to fix. That's something college basketball, college sports needs to fix, is the transfer portal. It's broken in every sport across the country. But how can Indiana adjust to all of this? Well, it's pretty simple. You got to buy into it. You've got to buy into everything, whether you like it or not. Whether you like NIL, whether you like the transfer portal dates, whether you like the fact that, yeah, if you don't give a kid everything he wants, he could leave you tomorrow. Yeah, it sucks. I agree, but that's the name of the game, man. And yeah, anybody can leave at any time, recruits or transfer portal guys. And look, I've been saying this with recruiting, commitments really don't mean a whole lot anymore. Until you get pen to paper, I wouldn't feel comfortable about it. And as we just saw, even then, it's not 100% because guys can still get that letter of intent and pull it and go somewhere else. So you just got to adjust and you have to buy into it and you have to play by the rules and you've got to try and be the best at it. That's what the greatest coaches of all time have ever done. And that's what Indiana has to do. The question, though, that I leave you with, can Mike Woodson do that? Can Mike Woodson and this Indiana staff and this program right now, can they adjust? Can they buy in to NIL, transfer portal, recruiting, all of those things? Can they do it and can they do it well? Because if they can't, Indiana's in trouble. And that's what I leave you with. Can they do it right now in the current state of this Indiana basketball program? I have my answer, and I'm sure you do too. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for blowing up yesterday's episode. Let's do it again on this one today. If you're on YouTube, like the video, share it with your family and friends, subscribe to the channel. We're now pushing towards 2,000 subscribers. If you're on audio, hit the bell notifications, turn those on so you never miss a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Happy NCAA tournament. Enjoy the games. I filled out my bracket. It'll be busted by the second game, I'm sure. Have a great day. I'll be back tomorrow, final episode of the week, and we'll charge into the weekend. Until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.